Action.
Okay, I'll know where to cut.
Yeah. All right, you do it.
Okay, because I'm the woman. Shouldn't you be introducing this since you're the only one that should be
Alpha
speaking?
male Sigma, Patrick Bateman right here.
I think Alex is going to start us off today
No,
because
I
only
think
men
it's-
should speak.
I think it's a power move because I'm making the woman do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're hoping I embarrass myself and you're
Yeah.
thinking of all the ways.
And then I'm just gonna like do what you did again, but then like
Bad.
mock you and condescend.
Okay,
be
I'm
condescending.
really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So like, hey guys, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Alex.
and this is Between Shelf and Screen.
Nice try, honey. Okay, we can leave that out.
Too bad.
All right, yeah.
We're jumping into this. Do you actually want to restart?
No, we can keep going. I was trying to be like Patrick Bateman.
Just so you guys know, he is actually always like that off camera.
Yep. That's me.
Actually, only. He won't speak to me. Like, he walks in and he's like, and I'm like, okay, let's get to recording. And he's like,
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you weren't wearing, like, Armani or Louis Vuitton, so I did not want to interact with you.
yeah, I was busy today. Sorry, I had to return
Some videos.
Bro, we have been saying this way too much.
Yeah. We haven't even been talking about the
Oh, yeah,
book
we
yet.
haven't even introduced it. So today, we're going over the one and only, the American Psycho.
Yes. I don't even think it's fair to give a rating on this book.
Yeah. Like, if we were to break it up between, like, quality of the writing and book itself and entertainment, they'd be, like, on totally opposite sides.
Yeah.
Like, did we enjoy this book? Not necessarily. Is
Yeah.
it a work of genius and brilliance?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, describing it as brilliant would be like, I feel like accurate, but at the same time, there's some lines in there where it's just like, wow, I could make this up in my 13-year-old mind.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's nothing really special about the specific lines and quotes, I feel like very rarely.
Yeah.
But it all together just really sets the character. Like, this is 100% a character-driven novel. Let's just put that forward. There is no plot, period.
I was thinking of a way to, like, describe this book as a whole, just, like, the feeling of it, and I think the best way to describe it is the entire book is just insane, just neurotic, hilarious satire at times. Like, it has its moments where it's actually funny.
Yeah.
And then absolutely revolting. And, like, genuinely just so disturbing. Like, that's this book.
It's a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Because there's some moments where you're like, oh my god, this is so stupid that, like, I have to laugh about it. And then there's other moments where it's like, wow, I don't want to continue reading.
Yep.
And I cannot find a single thing about this that's funny or entertaining.
Yeah. No,
and I'm actively not enjoying myself.
Yeah, like, some scenes are like, I've never had a book that actually grossed me out like this book did. Like, gave me such a gross feeling.
Yeah. I think I've had one kind of made me feel like this but for a totally different reason. And it really doesn't even come close to this. Like, it was only a partial part of it. While this whole book, I really just was like, okay. Like, I think the beginning was pretty tame.
Yes.
Like, the first 100 pages. And then it totally, like, reverses.
It just, like, it slowly builds tension, and then all of a sudden you're just, like, full-blown insanity. Just gross serial killer stuff.
Yeah. It, like, doesn't even mention, like, and as someone that has never seen the movie and, like, has not known anything about it besides the fact that he's a little bit of a psycho, I had no idea what to expect. Like, I knew it was going to derail, but the beginning did not set it up for what it was going to go into.
Well, the beginning was mostly funny.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
It's pretty hilarious. Like, that, you know, I didn't know that the business card scene was so early on in the book. And that's in the movie as well. I've seen it. I'm going to rewatch it. My opinions might change, especially after reading this.
Oh my
But God, it's so funny. Like, that scene in particular is hilarious.
I am genuinely so excited to watch this movie, though. Like, I am. No matter how I felt about the book. I will never reread the book.
Yeah, I will never reread. But like I think both me and you are on the same like page, just thinking like, wow, this was like genuinely like the writing style and everything, and just like the narrative, like it accomplished what it was trying to accomplish.
And it's like honestly what I can assume. I mean, I don't know any serial killers, but it's pretty accurate. Like the mind, like it's almost freaky accurate. Like this dude's definitely, this author's got to be some sort of messed up. And there's a little like at the very end, we won't go into this now, but at the end he does write a little like afterward, which kind of puts some sort of perspective of what the author was thinking. But
yeah, and a lot of it is what I gathered. He was trying to make social commentary.
Yeah.
And then it goes into his background a little bit. I think he was on Wall Street. Like I think he was making good money.
Really?
I want to. I don't know that for sure though.
He definitely made good money because he said that's. Anyways, yeah, the author kind of has some sort of very minor experience. I doubt he has experience with the more deeper things. At least he probably wouldn't say that.
I mean, he knows his fashion.
Oh yeah. This has got to be a headache for the people that were making the movie, the adaptation. Like, they were trying to make it accurate. It's like,
no. I don't think it was a headache. I think it was insanely simple because they're like, oh, this is exactly what we got to get. Like, our wardrobe's going to be stupid easy. We just got to read the book and be like, that's what she was wearing.
See, cool. I was debating between that. I was like, it's either the easiest job because everything's laid out and you don't have to question anything, but also you have to, like, fine-tune everything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that would be the worst. Like,
you gotta make it look pristine,
If you were, I mean, I doubt they made it. Like, accurate.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, like, in those sections, too, like, half the clothing, 70% of the clothing that he listed off, I was like, I don't even know what that looks like. Except for, like, when he described the color, I'd be like, oh, okay.
I have an image now in my mind. No, I have no idea anything that he's talking about.
Yeah.
I recognize the brands, and that's as far as it goes. I don't know how you can even... like, know that off the top of your head.
He had to do his research. I mean...
Oh, yeah, the author. But I don't know how anyone could, like, be like, oh, that suit... Like, all suits look the same to me. I mean, that's a generalization. But... yeah. I would not be able to tell the brand. I don't know. Like, if there was actually someone that could do that, that's crazy. Which I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
There's a ton of people that actively...
And, like, the writing style has such an OCD feeling, like you were saying. And I was wondering if, like, the author maybe has OCD and, like, is just letting it go wild. Or maybe he's just trying to have that effect.
I don't know how you could get this, like, accurate. Because it's not just everything has to be clean. Like, this is compulsionary obsessions, to the extreme. And I don't see how you could get that accurate without knowing.
Or feeling it.
Right, without, like, being in the mind, unless he did just crazy research about it. But, like, this is, like, to a T. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
it really bugged me. Like, it bugged me, but, like, it was what it was supposed to do, but it bugged me.
This is, I feel like, the most accurate representation that I've seen in, like, book or media or whatever. And even though, like, I don't know, this is pretty extreme for a lot of different reasons. It was still, like, just weirdly accurate.
Yeah.
This character itself, like, there's so much you can psychoanalyze about it. Like, this is going to be an interesting
there's
episode,
so much you can
I feel like.
From it. Like, I'm going to definitely make the comparison of Fight Club like he did in his notes. Because, like, that's what I was thinking about, kind of. Like, and Fight Club's definitely different in the fact that, like, the protagonists are somewhat redeemable and, like, at the end, it's like kind of psychological and like it's very plot driven as is, but with this, it's just making social commentary and just like exposing, I guess, like materialism.
Yeah.
And
100%.
just classism, racism, every ism, yeah, all of them.
Yeah, it touches on it all, and it's very extreme.
Yeah.
It's and like it focuses more on some than others.
Yeah.
And should we summarize this book or?
I mean, I feel like we've kind of done it.
I feel like
well, actually, we could. It's about Patrick Bateman. He works on Wall Street. He's a serial killer, and he suffers from psychosis. Which I mean, like that's not even a spoiler. Like it's just throughout the book.
He has a lot. This is just running through his mind and his mental.
Yeah, and like
state.
what he does. Like a chapter will be like a glimpse of my Thursday afternoon, and it's just absolutely insane.
And it's what's the word where it's just following, like. Every thought. God, I can never remember.
Oh, stream of consciousness.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's so funny when he's just like, he'll be talking to Evelyn, he's just like, I'm thinking about stocks. I'm thinking about
He'll just start
budget.
listing things.
Yeah. It'll be like, well, war in Afghanistan.
Which I feel like this is an OCD tendency of like kind of grouping these thoughts together, and it's like, oh, well, I've been thinking of that, like.
Yeah, well, whenever he gets stressed out, it's just like he lists just a bunch of things that he's knowledgeable on. And it's just like, what?
Anytime he feels anxious, which is all the time, which he won't ever admit that. Like, it doesn't blatantly say that, but he is always anxious.
I love the chapters where he starts, he's like, I'm in such a good mood today. And then he proceeds to be the biggest ass ever.
He's the worst. I mean, you're not supposed to like this character. If you like this character...
You're insane. You should seek help.
Yes, please seek help.
You're probably beyond help. If you're like, wow, Patrick Bateman's cool.
Gosh, I'm so...
Which is part of like the meme. Like I'm sure you've seen the meme. Like
yes.
it's just satire.
Which is why I didn't think it was gonna be as horrific as it was, because I was like, well, people have quote him and they're like, oh, he's an icon.
Yeah. Well, like the movie is much more tame, which we will get into much more later, and that's
next week. I still haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, that's where the memes generally stem from, and it's just like the memes are hilarious because like
there's a lot of memeable stuff in here.
Yeah, like the stuff like the meme that I understand, like at least the portion of the people who make them are like they're claiming that Patrick Bateman is the ultimate Sigma, you know what I mean? And they're like, wow, he's just like what I aspire to be. And it's obviously they're being satirical as well as like the book. It's like following the same thing. But then there's another subgroup who's just like, wow, I love how he's like racist. And we don't like those people.
Like, wow, he just has freedom of speech, and it should really go back to that time where we could just say and do whatever we wanted.
Yeah, and those people who make those memes...
Not cool.
You missed the point.
Yes.
You missed the point.
Like I was talking about earlier, I saw some people kind of like defending, being like, if you rated this 1 star, you're just a snowflake. And it's like, I don't think, like, you're not supposed to find this book enjoyable. It's supposed to disturb you.
And if you didn't enjoy it, I don't blame you.
No, absolutely. If you are a person that likes to read for enjoyment,
entertainment value, maybe like something that's a little bit uplifting.
Yeah, and especially as kind of what you've said, is the movie's very much different in the sense that it doesn't and if people watch that first and are like, oh, I want to see where it came from, they're going to be shocked.
Yeah, I was.
So I could understand why people would be like, oh my gosh, this was and disturbing, and I don't like this kind of writing.
So, okay, a while back, PewDiePie would have like this book club thing where he'd like talk about the books that he read over the month, and then he'd like share his like kind of review of it. It was like his book reviews. And then he talked about American Psycho, and he only really stressed the fact that he's like, this is hilarious. And like a lot of people do that. I noticed that. They're like, oh, it's funny, like it's a satire, but they leave out just how horrific it is. It's just disturbing. No, and that's exactly what PewDiePie did. He's just like, oh, he's like, I was reading this and found myself laughing out loud. I'm like, and then he looked it up. He's like, oh yeah, it's a satire. And I'm like, yeah, and he really liked the book, and he highly recommended it, but just left out just like how terrible, like not terrible, but just like how terrible it could be at moments, like horrific.
Yeah, same happened with me. Like, I hadn't seen that before, PewDiePie's review, but I've seen like more smaller channels are just like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, this is one of the books that had me laughing out loud or whatever, and they just didn't explain it. So again, I had no idea going into it. And even like your professor was just like, oh, there's some weird parts, but you can just skip that. Like the rest is really funny.
Like he was the only one that actually like brought up anything that's disturbing.
And it was still like barely anything.
Yeah, it was just well, we'll wait till the spoilers.
Yeah, but like I had no idea, and I would actively not recommend this book. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, it's for a certain type. I guess if you love like literature, like you probably could look past like the disturbing portions and you could kind of appreciate it for what it is.
I feel like if you like psychological and like actually going into the psychological aspect, like because this isn't really a thriller either. It's just psychoanalyzing someone in a satirical way, and it is funny at certain parts.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I would not recommend this book.
Yeah.
You have to be.
I mean, if you like horror, maybe you could get into it.
Still, like, I don't know. You have to be in the right place to read this book.
If you're having troubles in your life and you're not doing well mentally, I don't recommend reading this.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no. If you're struggling at all, this isn't gonna help.
Yeah, wait until you're into a better spot.
Yeah, because if the way that this character thinks, like it gets in your head, and the way the dialogue, everything about this writing.
Even more so, we said this about you as well, and it's like you, but like times
extreme.
10.
Mm-hmm. No, I thoroughly enjoyed you.
Yeah.
In every way, even though it was
entertainment factor is awesome.
Yeah. This was not this was just actively making me angry, upset, like everything, which is why I still give it 5 stars because the author did an amazing job. Like
5 stars
with it. His writing literally drives you crazy.
Yeah.
And it's impressive. It's genuinely like he's a genius in that factor, and the way that he made this character, and even other characters, like they all had. Yeah. They were all kind of the same in this sense because they're all going for the same goal, but they were still very unique. They had their specific quirks, especially Bateman. Like, so many things. And it was impressive, especially with how pointless everything was in this book.
Yes, nothing had a resolution.
It was so bad.
And we're back. We froze.
Yep, we froze. Someone didn't want us speaking.
Yeah, me. I think.
Yep.
So
I think we're
spoilers?
gonna get into spoilers now. First, if you are interested, I want to give a trigger warning and everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, the nothing specific. Just like if you are sensitive to any sort of trauma,
it is in this book.
Yep, it's in there, and it will disturb you. So be warned.
Yeah, read, and you can look up the trigger warnings on your own, but like actively, I doubt that they even list everything. Because
there's no way.
They're everything. Like any sort of trigger is in this book.
Yeah.
And it's almost like trauma dumping. Mm-hmm. I kind of mentioned this when we were talking while I was reading it. Like it's genuinely trauma dumping, and I don't know. That always makes me like. Because it's just too much on me where I start to get upset. Like, I start to take it personally. So, yeah. Basically, read at your own risk.
Yeah. And if you get to a certain point where you're just like, man, I don't want to read this anymore, just know that we understand.
Yeah. And you're not missing out on anything,
you're
honestly.
Not, really.
Well, I haven't even seen the movie. I'm sure the movie covers it good enough.
Yeah, you get the feeling.
Yeah, and it's like popular for a reason. So honestly, I mean, I'll fill you in next episode when I actually watch it. But I feel like I'm going to suggest the movie over the book any sort of day.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into spoilers.
All right.
Where do you want to start?
So I mean, okay. So we'll get into this more in the movie episode as well. But like the card scene in the movie and in the book. Probably still my favorite scenes of both of them because it is so funny.
Yeah, this is one of the more lighthearted things.
Yeah, toward the beginning, yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically they're just comparing business cards.
And of course Bateman brings it up.
Yeah,
He's like, guys, check this out.
Yeah, it's like, let's check out Paul Owen's card. And like, so much is happening. They're getting these drinks put down that they didn't order, and then they're getting it picked up. In the middle of them comparing business cards, and he's describing them in such detail, which is such minor and fractional differences that don't make sense and like nobody would care about, but Bateman's freaking out.
It's so
And then Price is sitting there going, I want my lobster tail pizza. And then Bateman's like, I don't want it.
It's genuinely, the dialogue is so funny and it's so realistic where someone's just, they don't, and again, these people don't care about anything anyone else has to say.
Yeah,
so they are only thinking about themselves. And so then it's just Price talking about whatever he wants, and he keeps just saying, we need to get this. And then Bateman says, like, this pizza isn't good or something.
Yeah, anyway, and he's so hyper-focused on the competing cards.
That he doesn't care about anything else.
Yeah. And, like, the rest of, like, the people at the table, they're probably a little bit upset the way that I assume that, like, Bateman is, that, like, Paul Owens looks so much better than everyone else's. But they don't care that much. But Bateman just can't like, at a certain point, he's, like, sweating.
Well, like, because
the drinks are coming in and out. He's like, we didn't order this.
Well, because he can't have anyone better than him. Like, this is a constant theme.
Narcissist,
yeah, this is a constant theme where if anyone has anything slightly better, and, like, he'll even lie. Like, he lies about what he spent on things at the most randomest time. Like, what was it? I don't even know what it was. It was something so unimportant.
Tanning bed or tanning salon.
Yeah,
whatever.
And he was like, I spent this much on it, and it was like triple as much as he did.
Yeah.
And it was just weird. And everyone was like, I don't think that's right. Why would you spend that much money on it? He's like, no, I did. Don't question it. It's just the weirdest things. He was just so, like, obsessed with being the best at it. And
that's why he hates Paul Owens so much. Because Paul Owens, well, he might be sociopathic, but he's, like, from what we understand, he is everything that Patrick Bateman is trying to mimic. He wants to be him, and he's just so much better naturally at being whatever the hell they are.
Yeah, because he, like, actively has this persona that he will admit to, like, this mask.
Yeah.
And it's just, he is such an interesting character. Like,
yeah. And, like, every interaction he has with, like, a female that he's, like, dating. Okay, so first off, this was so confusing to me, and I'm sure you picked up on it too, but Courtney is his fiance, who then marries Luis.
Courtney's his fiance?
Yeah, he mentions that in the very beginning, and in the movie too, and they glaze over it in both so fast, and they never go back to it.
When did they mention? Because when they went to at the very beginning of the book,
Very beginning.
they went to that dinner that Evelyn, thank you, was hosting, and they mentioned that she was his girlfriend.
Yeah, but then it's so weird.
Wasn't Courtney there too, though?
Mm-hmm.
When did they mention that they were fiancé? I'm so confused.
I'm fairly certain. Let me fact check this real quick, because I picked up on it, and I'm just like, oh, it's so weird. Like,
I remember Eleanor was like, is that her name? Evelyn, gosh.
Evelyn, yeah. The girlfriend.
Yeah, Evelyn.
Side piece.
Yeah. She was like the main one throughout. Like, where he was like, I don't want her catching me cheating. But he cheated all the time. What?
Evelyn Richards is Bateman's fiance.
I didn't think they got engaged, though, because remember she was like, Bateman, let's just...
No, okay, I got confused. Evelyn is with Louise, and then they get married in the end.
No, that's Courtney.
Is it
You're
Courtney?
Right about that.
Okay.
Courtney is right.
Okay.
Sorry, Courtney is with Louise, and they get married. But then he was actively seeing Courtney throughout all this.
Yeah.
I don't know, they're all confusing.
Like, the relationships make zero sense, because, like, they say they're exclusive, and then, like, but then they just sleep around with whatever, and, like, both the partners know, but, like, they just don't care, because they're just like, whatever.
Because, like, Evelyn was seeing, or he thought that she was seeing Price.
Yeah.
And then Louise is, like, in love with Bateman.
Yeah.
Or
Louise.
Lewis.
Yeah.
Is it Lewis?
I
think it's Lewis.
I want to say, because, no, Lewis is spelled Lewis.
No, there's multiple ways to spell Lewis.
But
like
it's pronounced Lewis, but I think it's Louise.
No, that's a...
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure.
Lewis.
Okay, let me...
Lewis.
Hold on.
Because, like, Lou is. Like,
Yeah.
Lou is. you know? That made 0 sense. It was all a mess. And I feel like, do you think that they each represented a...
Luis. In Spanish, there's generally an
Oh.
accent.
not Spanish.
Well, maybe he was Spanish, but I don't know. I feel like Bateman would hate him. I mean, he did hate him, so I don't know. Bateman hated everyone, especially anyone that wasn't white, because, you know, white supremacists.
Yeah, no, they're all just extremely racist.
Yeah. It's so bad. It made me feel so gross in a lot of different ways. But do you think the relationships each equally represented their own thing, or they kind of all went to the same general, like...
They mean nothing. It's all pointless.
Do you think so? It's not like... Because why did he care so much about, like, Evelyn not finding out about his side pieces? Because, like, I feel like he did. He put an effort of, like, not getting caught.
Yeah, I think it's because he felt like he had to do it.
To fit in, I guess. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason he got the job, which I found that interesting. Like, they kind of mentioned that later on, that I assume his family's rich and, like, he literally didn't have to work a single day in his life, but he did get a job at who knows what because he never worked.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a job just sitting in an office, basically, and declining phone calls.
Just say no. And then he set up his dinner reservations.
There are so many reservations.
Yeah, that's all he cared about. There was one point in the book where he's like, this is how my day's been going. I go to the gym for 2 hours in the morning. I go back home and I watch my videotapes, and then I make reservations and then cancel them shortly after.
He was so upset. He wouldn't go anywhere that didn't have a reservation. Yeah. And then the one time he went somewhere, like, he walked into that place during a glimpse of Thursday or whatever, and he walked in and he was like, I have a reservation. They were like, sir, you don't need a reservation here.
He's like, give me a cheeseburger. He's like, we're kosher.
And then he asked for a milkshake.
Yeah.
Which,
it's so confusing.
That whole thing was a fever dream.
The entire book, honestly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And how would you summarize, like, if you had to group this, like, kind of like a pie chart, like, it's 50% this, 20% that, like, what would your, sections be?
Like, as far as, like, comedy versus horror versus...
Yeah, but I was also thinking, like for me, I feel like it would be 50% dinner or lunch, reservations. Yeah.
I would say 20% gruesome murder. Probably 55% dinners. And then 10% office. And that's all I can think of right now. I think there's another 10% maybe, like, just general psychosis.
We have no idea if this is real or not.
No, we have no idea if anything he says actually happens.
I feel like it's 50% dinner or lunch reservations, 10% talking about the reservations, 5% music reviews or any sort of review.
Yeah, of anything.
15% cocaine.
Yeah.
What else? I don't even know how much I added. I did 20, 50, and...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm bad at math. I think I did 105%.
I thought you did less than 100%.
I probably did. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm going to make a little pie chart. We're going to add it up, and they're going to see how terrible we are. I'm going to add in another 10% of just murder and 30% hard bodies.
Yeah, no, it was so funny. I asked my mom, because I visited her in the middle of, like, and I was reading at their house, and I was like, hey mom, have you ever heard of the term hard body? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, I've never heard of it.
Never, yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, yeah. And that was that. That's the whole conversation.
I'm so glad that didn't carry into our time because I'm deeply disturbed by that word. I think if I were to hear that word used, like I would start throwing hands on spot. I hate it so much. It's like I don't even know what specifically just like activated in my brain to make me so angry, but I hate that word.
Yeah.
Every time he says it so much too, and I'm like, please stop referring to women like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, like he's obviously a terrible guy, but I was like, can we just drop that word? One thing I can ask.
It's so funny when like he'll just talk about like he's like, I'm getting not interested in this conversation, so I'm going to stare at the hard body over there with.
There's and he would like walk into a place and he'd be like, hard body at the bar. Like he'd just make basically notes, and that was it. And it's like I don't care. I genuinely don't, and I know that the point they're trying to make is that he's just viewing women as this object, but it's like.
When he started listing off like what they were wearing, I'm like, oh, here we go. Takes up a whole paragraph for one person.
Oh my god! I guess I left that out. 20%.
Describing clothing and the proper etiquette on how to wear the clothes.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
There was so much repetitive, and I feel like he wore majority Armani.
No, yeah, that was his favorite brand.
Yeah.
And he was really taken aback when the detective had it. He's like, he dresses just as good as me.
Can we talk about the detective for a second?
He was the only normal one, I feel like.
Oh yeah, because he wasn't getting paid
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like this scene was so funny because like, you know, Bateman tries to pretend he's like this guy that can handle anything and he's above everyone else. But then when he's actually put under any sort of pressure, he cracks so easily. Like he was so awful at handling this. And then after the detective left, like clearly on edge about what this dude was doing.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, success.
Yeah, and he incriminated himself so badly.
He's just blatantly lies, and he has no reason to excuse it. And then at the very beginning, when he kept offering the water so he would avoid the question, it's like, bro, stop. You're clearly nervous.
Oh my god, that reminds me, like, remember that one scene where, like, it's talking about them, like, preparing their drinks? I think it's Paul Owen. He's, like, super drunk, and then he squeezes a lime into his water and totally misses.
I don't remember this, actually.
It's so funny.
There was genuine, like, this book did not shy away from just the awkwardness of everyday life, of, like, someone talking over one another, or just no one listening to what you're saying, or whatever. Just all this sort of stuff. It did not shy away from giving that in great detail, and it was so funny, because it's just like, oh my gosh, you're just reading it and like, this is so stupid. Like, oh my gosh, specifically when Bateman kept yelling at the bar or whatever, who has the Fisher account?
Yeah.
Tell me, who has the Fisher account?
Had nothing to do with the conversation.
Everyone else was talking about their own thing, and he just kept bringing it up. They're like, we don't know. It never explained why he wanted to know who had the account.
Or why he wanted it, or what the Fisher account was.
We don't even know what his job is. Like, he works on Wall Street at PMP, and when he was talking to the prostitute that was like, what's that? And he was just like, it's a shoe place, because so many people kept assuming it was like a shoe store.
Yeah.
So he was just like, gosh. And so many times he would just like blatantly lie. Like, that's one example where he would say, or he said, it's a shoe store, to avoid like actually explaining something. He did that so much, and every time it was so funny, because you just knew, as someone that like, as the audience member, knowing what else was going through his head, you're just like, why would you say that? Every time he's like, I gotta go return some tapes.
I gotta go return my videotapes. It's so funny.
He's just making excuses, and it's so realistic, because we all do that. We don't just make a white lie to avoid something.
Yeah. And then he'll like make plans with Evelyn, knowing that he's gonna cancel.
Like, just not show up.
Yeah. Or then if like the Christmas party where he just like takes her to a club, like out of her own party, and then just has the most terrible night.
No, he just makes it the worse for her. And then he stays there and does cocaine with the guy. He met in the bathroom.
So weird.
He's awful. Why
Yeah,
did
nice.
why did she stay with him?
No, the fact that Jean was like in love with him made no sense.
Well, I mean, she only saw him at work, though.
But he was terrible to her.
Yeah, the
so
very
mean to her.
first scene we got, he was like,
He's like, never wear that again.
"You're better than this."
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh my
What do
gosh."
we say? Just say no.
And every time at the beginning when he would mention her, even though we already know this, but he would still, every time he mentioned her, be like, "Oh, my assistant that's in love with me." Like, we heard it the first time.
Yeah.
And he said this about multiple people. Like, he's just that full of himself. He's like, "Oh yeah, this person's in love with me." And he said, "This will probably be the woman that I end up marrying."
Yeah.
What are you on
What
about?
his fiance is Evelyn? Who knows?
Yeah, he's like, "Why are you even wasting this time?" Like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Do you think he's gonna end up marrying her?
I think. Well. I don't think he's ever gonna get married. I think
don't
he
think
is
so
permanently
either.
27.
Yeah, because
And time
wasn't he
is just-
27 at the beginning, and
Yeah.
then even though a year has passed?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Bro, he's one of those people that are like, "I'm celebrating my 27th birthday 5 years in a row."
Yeah. It just doesn't age. Like, it literally ends at the same place. And nothing has changed. Price is back. Where did he go? Who knows?
Oh my god. Price disappeared for half the book, and I was like so grateful because I hated Price so much, equally almost.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Please bring Price back because there's too much. I need less of Bateman."
I thought at first, like, Price, like, he was acting out and just being the way he was because he was just, like, upset with his life. And maybe he was going to be, like, the moral basis for, like, this guy actually has, like, a conscience and it's eating at him. That's why he's acting out.
Yeah.
That was my theory at first. No.
He's still a terrible
He's
guy.
the worst person.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. What do I want to get into? I'm looking at my notes now. This episode is like unhinged, just like the book.
Yeah,
Also.
like, you can't review it linearly. You just can't do it.
No, because a lot of it loops back in on himself, and as you said, the book ends in the exact same place. There is no plot. There's no progression. We end up in the exact same place. No development from Bateman. It's just, and honestly, I didn't expect anything else to happen. I kind of figured that was coming, and I do
Yeah.
like the end because it's a constant theme of like he's trapped without having the ability to feel anything for people. And he even says, he's like, what was it when Jean said,
yeah.
like, or no, it was Evelyn that was like, you're not
No, it was
being
Jane.
humane. No, it was
Oh.
like, you're not being humane when he was breaking up with her.
Mhm.
And he was like, no, I know how to be. Let me find
Oh,
it.
yeah. I know what
Um,
you're talking about.
but he's like actively acknowledging that he is just pretending
Yeah.
to feel things, and he thinks that he's doing a really good job of just blending in with society. And then at the end, it says that like this is not an exit. I mean, it's a literal like sign in a bar over a
Yeah.
door, but that's the very last line, and it's kind of just like there's no exiting his mind. Like there's no escape
Yeah.
from this because he just doesn't have the capability for it. And I wish I knew the exact quote because I kind of liked it, what he said
the
to
end?
Evelyn.
Oh.
No, with Evelyn. Gosh, hold on, pause.
While you're doing that, I gotta. Something.
Okay, this isn't Evelyn. No, this is Evelyn. End of the 1980s is where he breaks up with Evelyn, right?
Yes.
No, wait, he's with Jean. Shit, it's before that. Who is Jeanette? That is a name. Is Jeanette Jean?
No, I think that's a different. I think it's like a model.
Mm-hmm. Okay, he breaks up with Evelyn after the police chase, right?
Yeah.
Oh, was it No, it's not Valentine's Day. It's not Aspen. It's before that.
I think it's Valentine's Day actually.
No, that's when he meets. No, I thought that was like that's after he breaks up with Evelyn because that's after he sees Price and says that they broke up.
Okay. It's pretty confusing. Like.
Yeah, the timeline's really confusing.
Yeah.
Hold on, I almost got it. I swear. I swear. That's with his mother. Oh my god. In bed with Courtney.
Ew. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh no, it is before the police. Wait. Okay, anyways, I found
You found it?
it. I just need to find the quote. Okay, I found the quote.
Alright.
So Evelyn says, you're inhuman, and he just responds with, I'm in touch with humanity. It's like he has no grasp, like genuine grasp on it. But he's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm in touch with it. Like that's not what you respond with.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so like it's just
So devoid.
and it's just what's the word? A juxtaposition. Almost like
Oh yeah.
he's saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in touch," while just blatantly not being in touch with
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
so funny, and that's like the satirical like aspect. It's like,
Yeah,
that's
and
the
he
part that
kept
made me
feeling
laugh.
the need to just like defend himself when it's just like that's why he's struggling to defend because he's just like, oh man, this is just so not true. How can I like even say these words?
I don't know, like he doesn't know how to when he's confronted in any sort of way because again he doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
And it's just funny seeing him try to work his way out of it.
Oh,
Same with
yeah.
the police officer. He has no idea how to he's not thought about if he got caught because he doesn't think that he'll ever get caught.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I also wanted to mention. It reminds me of like the Evelyn scene, because he's like, "I'm ending things," and he has to say it like 4 times, and then even then, the point is not across to Evelyn, and he's like, "You're not important to me," and he keeps just going in, and then she finally understands at the end that they are over. Like people in this book, the characters are so bad with no. Or like boundaries, or just not getting what they want. Like they cannot comprehend it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, especially Patrick. He won't take no for an answer ever.
Yeah. I think he likes hearing no, so then he can just prove him wrong.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna
just-
get my way anyways. 'Cause
Yeah.
He's saying.
I don't even like. I mean, we could touch on like the gruesome stuff, but like we don't have to go into
Yeah,
detail.
we're not gonna go into detail for everyone's sake.
Yeah. So he
but yeah.
kills prostitutes. He kills Paul Owen. He kills.
Supposedly.
He kills dogs.
Homeless
Rats.
people. Any animal,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, that is like shouldn't be the most. It's actually not the most upsetting, but it's very upsetting. Homeless people, just random delivery
Yeah.
boys.
Anyone on the street.
A child in
Yeah.
broad daylight.
Yeah, and then he claimed to be a doctor, so
Yeah.
he could hold this child while they were dying.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And
all I'm
then-
going to talk about that.
Oh, and then well, you know, the parts that are gruesome as far as like the killings and stuff, like the process of him killing them, very gruesome, and then
It's
afterwards,
disturbed.
extremely gruesome. So that is what will really be I feel like the divide for people liking this book or not, because it almost made me not want to keep reading multiple times.
Yeah.
Like I was procrastinating reading it because like I would read something like that, and then I have to put it down, and I'm like, I don't want to pick up this book again. I'm like, it's gonna make me feel disgusting.
Yeah, I could not finish this
And
in like one sitting.
I had to
Not even
binge
close.
120 pages today because I was just like, okay, well, you got to get it done.
Yeah.
It's not an enjoyable read.
I know. Yesterday, that was me, and I had to take several breaks in between.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh my god. You put it down, you're just like, all right, watch something happy now.
Yeah, honestly, like it does not shy away from going into detail, and like it's anything that you could imagine him doing, like he will do it.
Yep. And then more. More creative.
Yeah.
More
honestly.
disturbing.
And I will say, like, I want to talk about specifically the homeless, like just his hate towards that. Like, it's definitely classism. Like, he views himself better. But, like, it focused so much on that. Like, it talked about so many homeless people. And what was the deal with just, like, showing money in their face and then taking it away? Like,
Oh, it was just them antagonizing. Yeah.
And do you think that there was more? Because, like, I don't know.
There's
This
more
was
to
a
it?
huge theme.
Well, I
throughout
mean,
the book.
that's a thing that people actually do.
Yeah,
Like you can see videos of it. Like I've seen videos of this, or like video of this one guy who went up to this homeless dude, and he had a poster, and then he just started ripping it up, and then he poured his coffee on him. He's like, "Get a job, you bum!" That people do that, and it's just because I guess they. I guess like a lot of the reasoning is like, oh, like I'm working this job, and then I just see this person just being handed money, and they're not working hard. Like that's their thought process. So that is literally just Patrick Bateman. He says it too to the one guy, homeless guy he's killing. He's like, we just have nothing in common. He's just like, you have a terrible attitude. You know, all this stuff is just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And like the one he's like, you don't read, but like all this just, and it's so, I guess it's ironic. Like he's doing it in an ironic way because we never learn about Patrick Bateman doing anything. I mean, he was handed this in his life.
Yeah.
His parents were rich. He
basically owns the company.
And he doesn't do a single second of work. He actively doesn't show up to work for whatever reason. Like he was like, I didn't want to come in because I rented this new movie, or this show was on. Like, oh my gosh, what is this show? The Patty.
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I did like
the amount of people are just like, just tape it.
I did like every time he mentioned it because it was just like a huge revolving part about his day. And he'd be like, this was what was on. And then that was it. He'd only bring it up to just say, this is what she discussed anyways. And like, sometimes it kind of like put into perspective. Like, I feel like the author definitely made it so the topics kind of weaved in to what was going on in the story, but also was so random at times. It was just, that's one of those, creative liberties, choices, stylistic approach that I was like, this is perfect. This adds so much, but so little at the same time, and I love it.
Him meeting Tom Cruise. Oh my god.
That was so weird.
Yeah, it was so weird.
I forgot about
the
that.
The fact that he idolizes Donald Trump, just like he is like his god.
It's so ironic reading it now,
yeah.
too.
After everything that's happened.
I was like, yeah, he would. He would.
Yeah. It's so crazy because this is 1991. So this is back when just Trump was just a billionaire.
Yeah.
And like he just looks up at him and he's just like, oh man, I want to be like him so bad. Everything, like he will change his opinions if Trump has a different opinion on something.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the pizza place.
Yeah.
The pizza at the place that he didn't want to have the pizza with the lobster or whatever was Trump's favorite, and
he's like, well, I'll have to go back and review.
It's so funny, and it would so be him.
Yeah,
that and this is before they even knew what would happen, like how big Trump would actually get in media sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like Trump was obviously very big beforehand.
Right.
But still, like.
And Patrick was just attached to like his materialistic wealth. He's just like, wow, like that's the life. You know.
And still working.
And everybody, oh my God, every time they saw a blonde girl, there's like, is that Ivanka Trump? And then he's just like, no, it's not.
The amount of times people were like, I think this is this person, or is that? I was like, why does this matter?
It keeps happening.
It was so funny, and that's what made me think, like, with the whole Paul Owen situation, that they're going to just assume that he's alive because... He
looks like everyone.
Yeah, people are just going to be like, oh yeah, I saw him. Just like the first scene, people, or the detective was like, well, someone thought they spotted him, but turns out it wasn't. Like, everyone is just spotting people, and it's not at all close, but they just, I guess, want to be so, like, socially involved, and, like, it's almost like the status of, like, oh, I recognize that person.
Yep.
And they would, like, actively, almost every restaurant, they would actively be like, oh, that's so-and-so over there.
Yeah.
And then someone would disagree and be like, no, I don't think that is.
And they just move on. Yeah.
It was so random, but they're just like, I have to know so-and-so. Like, I feel like I've noticed this within more, like, higher status groups, where they, like, are like, oh, I met this person through that so-and-so. Like,
Yeah.
I've known some people that are more, like, involved in jobs that kind of have more experiences going into, like, meeting actors or whatever, and they just feel the need to be like, oh, I met this person at this event, and it's like, it still doesn't mean you know them, but they almost feel the need to be like, oh,
Saw him, friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's like, it doesn't harm anyone, but it is definitely a very status. And
No, you want to be like, oh, I know him. Like, I know people in my past who I've just been like, oh, I hung out with this person, and then, like, the person didn't hang out with them, and they just lie and be like, yeah, we did this.
Yeah. Or they'll, like, hyper analyze, like, they might meet someone for 10 minutes and they somehow make that into an hour story. Like, they know the person personally now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like it's human nature when you have this hierarchy in society with, like, oh, this person's, like, you know, this whole figure that is idolized, and so I got the chance to meet them. I'm gonna, you know, I feel special for this almost, which is kind of a flaw in society, I feel like, because they're still people.
Yeah.
But it's just almost natural for someone to be like, I know them, and I don't know, it's so odd.
Yeah.
But that was a huge thing throughout this book too.
Yeah. I mean, I think we finished up our last point. I think we should just close it out.
Wait, actually, I do want to mention,
Sorry.
I do want to mention, I found it ironic when, like, towards the middle of the book, Bateman was, like, in a bathroom, and there was a crack above the mirror, and he was, like, just spiraling, and he's like, what if I disappeared into this crack? Like, I bet no one would care, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is, like, yeah, I doubt they would.
Yeah,
considering,
he's right.
Yeah, and Tom Price had been gone for, like, chapters at this point. I mean,
And
for a
nobody
while.
cares.
No one brought it up, except once where they're like, oh, is Tom Price going? No. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we didn't hear a single thing. No one gave a shit. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Was it Tom? Wait. Was it Tim or Tom?
I think it's Tim.
Tim Price. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even remember him.
He's Price.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, literally exactly what Price did. He just ran into the subway, and that was it. He, like, disappeared into the crack. I was like, okay, this is, again, ironic, and it just makes me laugh. There were so many ironic things where I was reading, and I was like, of course you're thinking this. Like, you're just so blatantly unaware.
Yeah, just, like, how he's so obsessed with himself, and he's like, man, like, just having that revelation with him, he's like, man, I think Evelyn only likes me for my money. It's like, yeah, all these girls only like you for your money.
Yeah.
That would be it.
And he was somewhat aware, which was just, it was crazy. All around, this book was an adventure, a trip.
Yeah, it is a fever dream through and through.
Don't suggest it, but I don't know, we had some good laughs.
Well, okay, I do suggest it. I would, but just, you know, just go it. Like, I didn't get the proper warning beforehand.
Yeah.
I did not get the proper warning of this book beforehand, and it threw me for a loop. So just know that it is gross and very descriptive and alarming and disturbing.
Yeah,
So,
be aware.
Just know that. It has its funny moments, but that is, like, honestly smaller compared to, like, these other terrible moments. It is shocking. It's definitely one of the most shocking. No, not one of the most shocking
Yeah.
disturbing book I've ever read.
This is probably like the most gruesome one that we've read so far.
That I've ever read, period.
Yeah, 100%. And even if like you are someone that doesn't get triggered by anything, like,
Yeah, no, the same. Like,
yeah, I am very good at dissociating myself from the events and not. I don't know. It takes a lot to get me to actually like
yeah,
be affected by a book, but
this one got me.
yeah.
And nobody emphasizes that enough, so we just wanted to be the ones that did.
Yeah, and like please look up the trigger warnings.
Yeah.
It's just because it's a lot. It
Yeah.
really is. It's heavy. We're going to
good.
be thinking about this for a while.
It's good. There's so much to talk about. Like, we'll pause for a break, and we just end up talking about it.
There is so much to psychoanalyze about this. I mean, we could go into every little thing because I genuinely think the author had to put so much research into this. Like,
A ton.
Yeah, it must have been insane. And I feel like the author put a lot of meaning behind everything, even if it seems pointless. I mean, this whole book kind of seems pointless because there's no plot.
And then
But-
it is the point to be pointless.
Exactly, and it's so incredibly detailed, and we could go into so much. Like, we don't have the time.
Yeah. This is the only time we don't have the time.
Yeah, and we already like stretch on longer than what we want to in almost every episode.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, this episode, I mean, would genuinely take like probably 10 hours. I think we could do that.
Yeah.
If we just went through
Each
every
theme.
chapter, we
Each
could basically
theme.
just read it. We could
Yeah.
do like audiobook time.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't get the audiobook because I would have just been like sitting there like, what? What? Oh my god, what? While I'm trying, I'm like, oh no, what? Stop. Oh my god. I pause it and be like, nope.
Yeah. Like hearing it. Yeah, so, oh my gosh. I can't wait to read reviews about it now.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
I'm
afraid
gonna
of it
I'm gonna
being
watch
spoiled.
I'm gonna watch some book reviews and be like, you're full of it.
When they're like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious.
Yeah, I'll be like, stop it.
But yeah, let us know if you did end up reading this book. Because I am
And,
curious to see what people say. And comment down below that it's just a funny humor book.
Funny, haha. All right. Until next time, I gotta go return some videotapes.